Tell me if you have been here. You're standing up to present in front of a meeting at work. Maybe it's an update about a new project you're working on. Or you're speaking on a Zoom in front of a bunch of people and you're staring at this unforgiving glass camera trying to connect with the people on the other side. You had in your mind what you wanted to say, though you just started talking. Stuff was coming out, you're hearing yourself speak, nothing is sounding quite like you expected. But you keep talking because you have to keep going. And then finally your portion's done and you're thinking, what did I just say? Though it certainly was not as eloquent or as smooth in person as you hoped it would be in your mind. Why does speaking in front of people have so much power to throw us off when we're able to talk to people one-on-one in person? Well, if you feel this way, you are simply not alone. I hear it all the time. When I was young, I wanted to crawl into a corner and hide rather than speaking up in middle school. I was terrified. I didn't want to be seen. Though I'd started forcing myself into difficult situations in high school, and that's when everything broke out. And I went into broadcast journalism after all. Though the nerves did still persist, imposter syndrome stayed around, and it followed me, honestly, for 15 years in my career up until a few years ago. But I wasn't satisfied, and it wasn't until I started actively improving my skills, that's when things turned around. And I'm gonna share those things in this video. This is a 3-part series, and the first one we're gonna talk about how to get your thoughts together so you actually know what you're gonna say before you even get started. So let's get into it in this video.
Put your hands up.
So this is a really big topic that I absolutely love talking about. I do webinars about this topic. I coach people one-on-one in how to speak and present in front of camera. And you know what I find is interesting? When I talk to people, they have such great ideas. They're dying to get those ideas out. And I think to myself, what is the barrier between the ideas that are really great and getting these out to the world? And that's the very reason I actually coach in this space, because I hate the feeling that we have these ideas and we're just letting fear or anxiety or a bad experience presenting stopping us from actually getting that out to the world. And to me, that's very unfortunate. And so what I want to do in this video, or it's actually a 3-part series, in this first video, we're going to talk about how to know your content, how to think about it so that you're completely prepared when you go in. Because in most cases, we do know when we're getting ready to speak, or we loosely know we're going to need to talk about a topic. So you can do some preparation in advance. And in the following 2 videos, we're going to talk more about tactics on how to present them, how to use your voice, and all those great things. We have to start with the content first. So as I mentioned in the intro of the video, it's important to know what you're doing. So I'm going to give you a few examples like I did in the beginning. You might be speaking in a meeting with your team, or it could be a board if you're reporting to them, which is really scary. So it's like a big meeting where you're standing up and it can be really anxiety ridden. Whatever it is, you want to know what you're speaking about. So therefore you have that buttoned up in your head and you're able then to be present in the moment. So you can have pauses like I do now. And also you can be paying attention to what's happening in the room because that's a key part of the topic. So likely if you're on this video, you're probably presenting in some sort of career-based presentation. Like I said, maybe it's a meeting with your team, whether you work for an agency or company or whether you run your own business. It could be a sales meeting. It could be something that's maybe not so formal, but still you find that when you're talking, you're not really sure what to say and in what order and how to say it. And so in turn, you either don't prepare at all, which is really bad, but sometimes we do that because it's just completely overwhelming going in, or you do prepare, but you're overly scripted and you're not free to listen to what anyone has to say. So we want to meet somewhere in the middle. And the thing is, you really know deeply about what you're talking about. So let's imagine that you're presenting something in a team meeting to get people inspired about a new idea. Let's say you've been considering launching a YouTube channel like I've done right now, and you're trying to sell your team on how to do that. Well, get your pieces together so that you know why it matters to the room itself. That's the first thing. What are we trying to do with what we're saying? Start there. So what I mean by that is, who are we presenting to? So let's imagine that I work for someone else and I'm selling them on why we should do a new YouTube channel and put all of our senior leaders on camera when they hate it and they need this training as well. But they go on camera and we're trying to get them to do it once a week. Well, that's a big ask. And so I have an opportunity now in that scenario to present to those people to sell them on the idea. How am I going to do that? Well, they're going to have resistance because they don't want to do it or they feel that they can't do well on camera either. So I have to give them some level of belief. So now when you start to think of it this way, you're framing what you're saying. So it's not just the content itself, it's more, what do I need these people to do? What do I need them to think? And usually when you're speaking, honestly, in most cases when I'm speaking, I'm always trying to look for a way to change a belief, to shift a viewpoint, to get people on board to something else, to challenge them to unleash their full potential, like I talk about in these videos. So whatever it is, you want to weave that in. And so the way that you can do that is, I often will start off with writing out the points. So you can sell them with why the YouTube channel matters, give them all the metrics, but we don't want to start there. We want to start with something that's human. And this is something that I think will work no matter what situation you're presenting in. I have another video where I talk about this, where I talk about how emotions connect with people more than facts. They just do. So we need to couch all of our facts with emotions and stories and opportunities and selling them on a vision of who they can be. That's what we want to do. So our goal is to make those senior leaders at your company believe that they can be rock stars on YouTube. And that's how we start. So for example, you could start off by saying, there is a huge opportunity on YouTube right now. There are so many people creating channels, and vlogging is coming back. And what that means is a vlog is a much more casual way for people to get to know you and what you're about as a leader, not just your job. What would you say if we actually walked around the office and filmed you? You don't have to do any work. And when you have a brilliant idea, now you can tell us live on camera. We'll edit it all together. And now you're showing up on YouTube every week with great thought leadership that you didn't have to really sit down and prepare. What do you think about that? Okay, now we've gotten them to listen. Now the metrics are frankly an afterthought, but we still weave them in. But now you connect everything back to the metrics. And now the metrics connect to the belief that you just gave them, because now they see a future state where they can be YouTubers. So in this example, what's happening is we are connecting with what these people care about. And that is what I want you to remember. And that's going to change no matter what situation you're in. So it helps understanding what they're thinking about, knowing who you're speaking to. And obviously, if it's someone you work with, you're going to know that very well. So take a moment to connect your content over here to what they care about. Make those connections, and therefore then you can fluidly do what I just did and introduce why it matters for them. And what I did in this example, I would encourage you to do as well. Think if there's an opportunity to actually vision cast of where they can go that feels slightly uncomfortable for them, because people love that. They love being taken to this place where they can visualize a future state of themselves that's a little bit different than what they think of on their own. If you can get them into that space, now they start to trust you and they start to become comfortable with you. And now you can start to weave in other ideas to really persuasively get them on board, because you're not telling them to do something they don't want to do. You're giving them somewhat of permission to do something they kind of thought they couldn't do. So that's what we're doing in this section. So getting your content down first is key. So brain dump everything you want to say, get out all the facts, get it down into a dry script, but spend some time doing what I just did before you go into that presentation, that webinar, that meeting, that Zoom call, no matter how simple the thing is. Even if it's a 1-minute update, a 5-minute update, or a formal presentation, treat it the same. Understand what they care about, who you're speaking to, and what will move the needle on making them see a future state of themselves. So that's the key strategy for point number 1. So if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I love to talk about big vision, and I also love to talk about tactics, because I think they both work together. So now I'm going to give you a tactic that you can actually use to do this every time that you do some sort of presentation. Because an equal part of this is not only knowing what you're going to say, but feeling comfortable when you're saying it. Now, when we get into the other portions of this series, I'm going to talk in great detail about cadence and tone. So I'm not going to spend as much time on that here. What I want to talk about now is how you rehearse and practice with yourself. Wait, you may be wondering, why did he just say rehearse? Do I actually have to rehearse a presentation? Yeah, you should. You should rehearse every time you go in front of someone, even if it's just with yourself, once or twice. Because when you do, you're going to get those nerves out and you're going to become mentally comfortable with the material. So then when you go in, you're much more likely to be present because you've already said it a few times. So I want to tell you how I do that. So I actually want to show you here what I have on a traditional piece of paper, not digital here. We're lo-fi. This is the actual intro that I just read you in this video. And so what happened with this intro is, if I were to want to deliver this in a room without this piece of paper, what I would do is I would read this out loud once or twice, just reading the paper like this. Tell me if you've been here. You're standing up to present an update in a meeting at work, or you're speaking on a Zoom in front of a bunch of people. Just do that. Keep your eyes on it, read it. Great. Do it again. Read it the same way. Now, here's what you're going to do that's kind of cool and different. On the third read, what I want you to do is I want you to bring your eyes up to the camera or to the person as much as you possibly can. So for example, I want to say here, tell me if you've been here. So I just read the whole thing first and now I'm looking up. Or if you're speaking on a Zoom in front of a bunch of people. You get the point. So you want to find some anchor words in your script that is going to give you room to read and then pop up, and read and pop up. And that's going to be your second or third read. And what you're going to do is you're going to uncover a few things. You're going to realize how you speak, and you're going to realize what words are standing out to you in that process. And then you can start writing your scripts or your outlines to do just that. And so then you could actually start to create outlines that just have some of those words, and it's going to trigger your memory. So again, a couple reads going through. And then what I want you to do is, if you want to read it a few more times as you're practicing, great. There's no amount of times, not too many times that you can read it. But what I want you to do is in the final piece, I want you to put this down. This is where it gets fun and a little bit scary. Before you go into the room, I want you to talk either to your iPhone, your Android, someone in your office, whatever it is. Tell me what the paper said. Now, this is where it gets interesting because now you're paraphrasing what you wrote. And if you do that once or twice, even though it's going to feel uncomfortable, guess what's going to happen? You're starting to internalize what you said. You're starting to say it in some different ways. And now when you go into that meeting, you're not going to need the script. And you can reference it, sure, bring it if you need it, but you're very unlikely to need it like a crutch because you know how you felt about what you said. You're starting to emote it and feel it. And that is when you're able to pivot on the fly. Now, I'm not going to walk you through and force you through this intro to do the same thing of what I just did here, but that is the way that you would do it. And then you've practiced probably 6 to 8 times. It doesn't take a lot. And especially if it's a really important meeting, take the time before it, because when you go in, you're going to be completely comfortable presenting because you know the material. Now, I would encourage you to do it as much as you need to in the beginning. This is the strategy that I use. I still use it to this day, and I especially use it for material that I don't know very well or material that I have not presented before. But even still, when I go in to present a webinar, for example, I always go through all the slides again, even if I've presented it before, because I change the language a little bit. I play with it, and I have that script there, but I don't always read it. I'm usually referencing it 40% of the time, 60% of the time, and a lot of it is being embellished. So hopefully this strategy is helpful for you so you can think about how to sound natural and also staying on the talking points. That's the key. We want to make sure you're achieving both. So if you've gotten a lot of value out of this video, I really hope you have. Give it a like because it tells the YouTube algorithm, because we have to honor the algorithm, that people want to watch this video. And also drop something in the comments that you took away from this video. I look at all of those comments, and you can meet other people that are looking to achieve the same results that we're talking about on this video. So drop a comment in there. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you want to get updates, because I do post a lot of videos about similar topics like this. And before I let you go ahead and take a look at this next video, because it's going to help you find other ways to unleash your full potential this year. I'll see you in the next one. Later.
Put your hands up.